All right, so welcome to video number 2 in the Maestro Mind Planner series. In this video, we're going to focus on the core foundation of the Maestro Mind Planner, the PARA method. If you're not already familiar with it, don't worry. We're going to first take a look at the method itself, and then we're going to see how it's implemented into the planner. But before we move forward, I highly recommend that you check out the first video in this series if you haven't done so already. That video is going to cover what the Maestro Mind Planner actually is, who it's ultimately for, and how the dashboard is laid out. Now, the PARA method is an organizational framework developed by Tiago Forte, and it's part of his larger second brain model. It's designed to help people effectively manage their digital information and notes across all the different aspects of their lives. Now, PARA stands for projects, areas, resources, and archives, which represent the 4 main categories of organizing information. Basically, you can simplify everything happening in your life just to these 4 sections. First, projects are things that you are actively working on that also have a specific time frame or deadline. They're actionable and they're relatively short-term in nature. For musicians, it could be your next gig or your next film score. I often use projects as my next YouTube video. Number 2 is areas, and these represent a broader role or responsibility in different aspects of your life that require some ongoing attention. Thomas Frank also refers to these as life buckets, and I think that's a really great way to understand what an area is. So unlike projects, they are never really complete and they don't have a deadline or a due date. So one example of an area could be the overarching music area, that life bucket, but you can also have an area for your health. You can have an area for relationships and lifestyle. You can have an area for your business or career. In Notion, each area has its own designated section. Resources are the topics of interest or useful references that don't really need your immediate attention. This is where you're going to store all information that you might find interesting or relevant in the future. Resources can include subjects you want to learn more about, some hobbies, places you want to visit, or just any general knowledge, really.
It's like general knowledge. General knowledge?
Throughout the planner, you'll see that resources are treated kind of like a subfolder within an area. So looking back at the resources by area view, you'll see that the music area has a couple of different resources to refer back to. And number 4, the final A, is archives. This is where you're going to store all those inactive items from the project, area, resource categories. Archiving means you're moving things out of your active workspace, but still keeping them accessible for future reference. And notice that I'm not saying that we're deleting anything. The most important thing to know about archiving is that you can still search and retrieve anything from the archive if needed. The purpose of the PARA method is to give you a clear structure and workflow for managing all of your information and maximizing your productivity. I personally really connect with this model because even though I try to be as organized as possible, if I get overwhelmed by all the different tasks and projects that I have coming my way, I tend to feel like information just gets scattered everywhere. But by implementing the PARA method, I do feel like I have a comprehensive system that helps me manage all the projects and tasks and resources. Now let's take a look at how the PARA method is integrated into the planner itself. First, we're going to have this tasks and projects page. This is where you're going to find a dedicated space to manage all your short-term efforts like your tasks and your projects. And within the Maestro Mind Planner, you're going to find that a task is different from a project. More often than not, a project can be broken down into multiple tasks. And tasks are typically quick things that need to get done that don't really require much planning beyond simply just getting it done. So let's say that your project is a performance at a local venue this weekend. Your tasks might be to load up your car or a truck with all your gear and equipment. You might have to contact the venue owner, and you might have to promote yourself on social media. So for example, I'm working on this Maestro Mind 3 video series. That's my project. And then you'll see that I have some tasks that are associated with this project. So looking at the top of the page under task inbox, I have some tasks that need to get done, but just like on the dashboard, I also have a next 7 days view. And then this new view is for completed tasks within the past 2 weeks. And then what's really cool about this is that you can actually create a recurring task based off of this template. And you'll see that I have one set up to send out an invoice on Mondays, weekly at 10 a.m. And then over on the right, you'll see that we have our projects for review. Right now, I have this project set up to be reviewed every 2 days under the review frequency. So my last review was on the 4th and today is the 6th. So technically I should be reviewing this project, this video series that I'm recording, which is why it's actually showing up in this section. So you know what? Let me actually go back and check off. I have a button here. So mark project as reviewed. I'm going to do that. And now we'll see that my last review was today, and the next review is going to be on December 8th. The review frequency is set to 2 days. And we close that up, and now I no longer have that project for review. Moving down, we have this project board section, which shows us projects based on their status, so that are not started, and then projects that are in progress. And then once we move a project to complete, it's actually going to disappear from this view just because we don't need to see completed projects anymore. But for now, let's keep that where it is. And what I really like about this view is that it's like moving a Post-it note from one section to the other. Now, in addition to that, we also have a section dedicated to project ideas. And these are going to be projects that I have in mind, but I'm not really ready to start them yet, but I don't want to forget about them. And I know that an idea I've been really thinking about is to release some more music. So under my music area, I created this music idea. And anytime that you create a new idea, it's automatically going to be tagged as an idea within this section. And then moving down again, the calendar section is great because I can see projects by their next review date. Let's go to December. Today is the 6th. The next review project date is the 8th. Projects by deadline. So next week I have the Composer Odyssey newsletter that I want to get done before it releases on Tuesday. I have this video series that I hope to release on Tuesday. And then I have some ThinkSpace assignments that I would like to get graded by the 13th, the latest. And these are going to be based on the day that they should be due. So obviously I am running behind on a few, so I'll take a look at that later. And then at the very bottom, we have a more in-depth task view. And you'll see that I have the same tasks that we saw from before in the calendar, but it's just based on the current week. And if you want, again, a full list of your to-dos, your tasks, you have that full list here as well. Next up is going to be the areas and resources page. So from our menu, we can just go to areas and resources, and that brings us over to that dedicated space. Now within the Maestro Mind Planner, areas and resources actually share a lot of the same characteristics and properties. That's why they share the same page and ultimately the same database. It's just that our view and how we interact with them are what's different. The page itself is actually very self-explanatory. We have the all areas section, and remember, areas are like our life buckets. I have a few areas set up already, like business, lifestyle, music, Museo and Cinesamples, YouTube, and Zach Heidi. These are the areas of my life that I'm consistently coming back to depending on the projects that fall under these categories. YouTube is a big one that I will find myself going to. You'll see that, again, the project that I'm currently working on within the YouTube area is this 3-video series. You'll also see a space for resources as well as notes. The Zach Heidi area is another big one that I go to. I've been working with Zach on a ton of videos and his composing career bootcamp, and I recently shared an hour-long conversation with him based on how to find work as a composer, so definitely check that out when you can. And underneath we have our resources. Remember, these are useful for reference. They're not immediately actionable. So under business, I have a financial tracker. Under music, I have music theory, business, instrument tips, and ThinkSpace education. And then again, under Zach Heidi, I have his composing career bootcamp. Let's actually take a look at the ThinkSpace education resource. I have a couple of student notes that I took while hosting some of the webinars. And if I included a link to the note, like this Google Drive link, it's going to get segmented into this web clips view. That's going to be really useful for articles and websites that you find for future reference. And I've actually been going back and forth on if I want to turn this ThinkSpace resource into an area itself, or if I want to just keep it under music where it is, or even create a new area dedicated to education and then move this as a resource over there. The point is that none of this is set in stone. You can adapt however you see fit. So whether it's your music career, your personal development, or other aspects of your life, the Maestro Mind Planner is really going to help you manage and navigate all of these different areas. And finally, the last part of the para method is the archive page. This is the page where everything that's done, completed, or tossed to the side ends up. It's an organized space for all of those inactive items that you might want to save for the future. I really do love having this dedicated archive page because everything that I'm actively working on, the rest of the planner workspace, can be clutter-free from the things that I've already done, I've already completed, but I'm never actually deleting anything, so I don't feel like I'm losing something important. Now, in reality, this is probably not the most exciting page of the planner, but it is absolutely useful for review purposes. Now, out of everything here, the most common thing that I find myself archiving is probably all of my archived projects. So I have a list here. It really is rare that I'm going to archive an area or a resource or, you know, like a daily entry. Let's actually look back at one of my recent projects that I archived. Here I have the Museo Black Friday video that I did. The status is complete, which is why it ends up in this archive area. And looking at the page itself, I still have access to, you know, the timestamps. I have access to the thumbnail I created, the script that I used. And then if I were to go back to the status and let's say I wanted to work on or reference the Black Friday video again, I could set it to in progress and it'll actually be removed from this archive section. But because I don't want to reference it now, I don't want to work on it, it is done. I'm going to put it back to complete and it joins that list again. I've really tried to embrace the para method and it's definitely transformed the way I approach my creative life. As a musician and a content creator, I really have discovered that everything can truly be broken down into these 4 main sections. The beauty of the system is that it simplifies digital organization by clearing up the clutter and allowing me to focus less on the technical side of organizing and more on the projects that really need to get done. And remember, if you do want to check out the Maestro Mind Planner for yourself, then make sure you use the link in the description down below to learn more. Now, in the next video, we're going to go over exactly how to set goals and the last few additional sections of the planner. I'll see you there.